Today we are talking to Rebecca Shapass. She is a filmmaker and multidisciplinary artist born, raised, and based in New York City. Her art and image-making practice revolve around an interest in exploring femininity in all of its forms and expressions. The nature of these studies and experiments are both collective and personal, leading her work to question the place of women within the time flux through the themes of sexuality, identity, and the body. Yeah. She's here to discuss her work, femininity, and just fabulousness. So please join us talking to Rebecca. Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, thank you for that generous introduction.
Third time's a charm. That's
Third
what they
time?
say.
Yeah.
We were having a pretty good after show or pre-show talking about fuckboys, and we could dive into that or we can just move on, because why do we need them in 2019?
I guess the one thing I would ask you to finalize that conversation would be like, how do you define a fuckboy?
No, that's such a freaking good question, because as I was mentioning, the fuckboy is the most progressive idea of identity, to be honest. It's actually insane, because my theory is everyone in the world has experienced a fuckboy, no matter the class, gender, sexual identity, race, religion. Like, there is a fuckboy in all forms. It's an intersectional concept. It's truly progressive. It's the American dream. It's actually what we
now strive toward or run from.
I mean, I had my fuckboy moment. I tried. I'm a Pisces, so it didn't really work. But I used a lot of emotion in it. It kind of blew up in my face. I hooked up with one girl. Couldn't. I don't know. What do you do after? Normally I fall in love. I don't know what happens after.
I feel like the fuckboy identity, which is ever changing now, like, you're right, because they appear as like, I'm trying to think of what my first fuckboy was. Probably the first guy I ever kissed was a fuckboy, but he was like a metalhead.
How old were you?
13.
Wow, the fact that, okay, I guess age doesn't matter.
Fuckboy transcends.
Jesus. He's a metalhead at 13.
Oh,
like all American Rejects metalhead?
Yeah, exactly. Got it. But like, you know what I mean? No, not really. But like, I have a performance actually about my first kiss called My First Kiss, and it's a slide projection. And I talk about how this like guy who's like quite a bit, not like too old, but older than me, basically like my first kiss was super weird because he was believed he was a vampire, like in the contemporary sense of vampires.
Edward?
Edward. That would have been the time.
I just got really excited. my inner heart.
But it's the story of my first kiss in which, like, I mean, like, yeah, totally a fuckboy. This guy, like, I kiss him, and like, your first kiss, like, getting tongued is just like such a weird thing for a young girl. And I ran away from him, like, totally. I was so embarrassed to like have been like to experience that physically, and I was so embarrassed by like this contact that I literally ran.
Were you upset though?
Yeah, I was very upset.
I'm sorry, that was your first experience.
That's okay. It was a fuckboy.
Did he knew how to kiss before? Like, he obviously didn't know how to kiss, but he's kissed before?
I think so. I would assume yes.
It's all a show.
Yeah.
You were his first kiss. It's a lot.
I don't know about that. I feel like that would be really brazen.
You were born and raised in New York?
Yeah.
New York City or New York?
New York City. So.
Oh yeah.
But like from the I feel like I would be challenged on this. I was born in Bensonhurst in Brooklyn, so it's a miracle that I don't have a terrible accent.
Nice,
and then I grew up on Staten Island.
I have family in Staten Island, so like I feel you when you say that. Like, I get it.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah, like I was like, yo, Die Hard, Staten Island. I get it. So what was your experience growing up? Like, did you always have this vision of yourself, like, I'm going to be, an artist. I'm going to touch on different disciplines. Like, were you pushed into that direction? Do you just kind of took that direction on your own?
It's actually interesting to think about, because even though I grew up in New York City, like, I predominantly was raised on Staten Island, and I went to a very small Catholic school around the corner from my house. And like uniforms and all that jazz, nuns, you know. And I
That's
was
such an experience that I can't process.
it's like at the time was not weird to me, though I always did feel like quite outside of it. My father, who is like amazing, really championed the idea to me, like, do your own thing, and would always tell me, like, don't be a cookie cutter kid, like, don't be a cookie cutter kid, and kind of like hammered that into my head as a young person. And I mean, I thought I was going to be a singer, which is funny.
In my head, I like to think that I could be a singer. So.
I still think that I'm like, I should start a band.
You could do it.
Like,
what instrument would you be? Or would you be the singer?
I would be the singer.
Okay.
Or
You
like
have the aesthetic.
It would be like a performance art piece, I think. At this
Okay, this
point.
could actually happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you spin it that way, it could actually happen. But yeah, so I was into performance. I did like tons of musical theater stuff, as all like suburban young people weirdos do. You know, you're like, I don't know what to do. I can't play volleyball.
I'm gonna express myself through creativity. I was also a field hockey girl, though.
Oh, that's
so
sick.
I did both.
Hell yeah.
I'm like, thank you. Normally, people don't have that response. They're like, oh, field hockey. Well, not soccer.
No, fuck that.
Yeah, I fucking love. Yeah, I can hold a stick. I can hit a ball. I can fuck you up. I use my field hockey stick as a weapon at home, just in case.
Oh yeah, next to your bed.
Yeah.
Of course.
Sorry to segue. So you were a musical nerd.
Yeah, and then I went to high school in Manhattan, where I was a drama major. So I continued.
In high school?
Yeah, I went to LaGuardia.
So you focus on an area. Okay, so it's a specialized. Okay,
it's a specialized high school. So I went there and I studied theater, and I really wanted to be an actress, and that was like my thing. And I'll never forget this moment. Like, it was senior year, and I don't know, like, I was a fine actor. I don't think I was the best. I'm not going to delude myself into thinking I was the best actor in the world. And it's interesting now that my work, like, I want it to be more performative in nature, and I find myself performing in my work more in front of and behind the camera, and I'm finally, like, acknowledging that part of myself again, and it's taken me almost 6 years to come back to that.
Sometimes it takes that long.
Yeah.
Or if not longer.
But my senior year of high school, one of my teachers, in a nice way, like a male teacher, said to me, like, I auditioned for a play, and he said to me, you know, Rebecca, like, you're gonna be really great someday, like, but you just gotta, like, wait until you're a little older when you could play roles like Selma Hayek or Penelope Cruz. And I was like, and it was like I knew the industry was that way, but the way he said it to me was very nice. And I knew he thought he was coming from a supportive.
Yeah. His intention wasn't it didn't seem like it was.
Should say, like, you look kind of brown, so I think you should just play like hot Spanish women.
I was about to say, because I was like, I did not even catch that brown part. I was more like, he was like, not meaning to, but like hypersexualizing you as an adult.
Yeah.
Not saying he was at that moment hypersexualized. Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like that.
No, it definitely wasn't that way. And I think about that a lot because I remember at that time just being like, yeah, I don't want to do this.
That kind of deterred you. You're like...
And it wasn't like a beaten down, like, oh, I don't want to do this, I can't do it. It was like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of an industry that believes in that. I mean, like, I'm a part of a society that believes in a lot of those things, and I can't fully remove myself from that. But
so do you think that identifying yourself as an artist gave you that freedom to perform the way you want to perform without feeling tied to an industry that is so cookie cutter, so like follow the rules, look how you're supposed to look to get these jobs? Because that's like, you know, the ultimate goal is to get those like Salma Hayek jobs, Oscar worthy, that type of stuff. But you found art as a way to really still perform for people in your own way.
Well, it's the irony of this is I was like, I don't want to perform, so I'm going to go to film school so I could be behind the camera. So then I spent 4 years going to NYU for film, and I studied film and deluded myself into thinking that that was an industry I wanted to be a part
Like,
of.
we all have to try different things.
It's just like funny when I think about it. And then after by the end of film school, I very much could acknowledge, like, you just want to make weird things. Like, you have always been this way, and I think anytime someone said, like, you should write a script in 3 acts, or like, this is the way a narrative works, like, there's something in me, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's that, like, don't be a cookie cutter kid thing, but I'm like, I don't want to do it, and it makes me angry and anxious, and I have to, like, instead of trying to, like, do my best at it, I, like,
would drop it and move to the
it's not even drop it, it's like I want to conquer it and show that, like, I have a better way to do it.
Well, that's a great way to, like, instead of, like, dipping on it, some people will dip and be like, you know what, it's not for me. But so instead you want to conquer it. You want to be like, I'll show you the way I will do it. It'll be better than the way that you showed me how to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Film school. Well,
don't do it.
don't do it, bitch. Get out of the system. No, but it's interesting, though, that, like, coming from a film experience, but breaking away from that mold. So, because a lot of your work is digital content. A lot of your work is, I've noticed, it touches back to, like, old school tools or methods, vintage methods on presenting work. So from, like, a camcorder to slides, which I love. Like, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it kind of stems from that original, like, push. I had, like, everything in a way, like, I'm finally going more by me, and that's, like, my 2019 thing. Like, stop looking around at what other people are doing and, like, just do you 100%. And I know that's, like, I say that to people all the time, like,
do you,
yeah,
boo.
do you, like, you're good. But then, like, when it's me, I'm out here looking at everyone like, should I be doing that? Like, what should I be doing? And it's like, no, I should not be doing anything in particular. I should be exploring concepts and ideas that are exciting to me. And so in film school, I was looking around at all of these very wealthy, predominantly white men at NYU using really expensive cameras to shoot projects, and I was getting really pissed because I was like, I'm never going to be able to make these movies because I don't have these resources or connections, and I don't want to. So I started shooting on a camcorder that a friend gave me after I saw a film by Jonas Mekas, who is, like, the founder of Anthology Film Archives and considered, like, the great-grandfather of experimental film and underground film in New York. A professor of mine gave me a VHS tape of his called something Scenes from the Life of Andy Warhol.
Ooh.
Or something about Andy Warhol.
Okay.
And it was a lot of underground footage of, like, super famous people in New York in the 60s and 70s, and a lot of Velvet Underground. And I was like, this is me. Like, this is what I want to make. Like, I want the grit. So I started working with a camcorder, and I love the physicality of tapes. I love that the media, like, I wouldn't save an SD card, but I never shoot over a tape. One, because like, it doesn't look as good, and two, because, like, you have a tape, it's physical, it exists in time and space, and there's a weight to it. There's a reality to it existing, and digital media does not do that. And of course, I use digital means from time to time in my work when it's appropriate. Like, the medium is dictated by the project. The project is not dictated by the medium.
Okay.
And so, like, yeah, and then I think at the end of the day, though, like, I like old things. Like, I like the way they smell, and, like, my dad always had my dad worked, like, my family had a 1-hour photo when I was a kid on Madison Avenue in Midtown. And
a 1-hour photo?
Like a 1-hour photo shop, like in the days of 1-hour photo, where they sold, like, film and cameras and stuff like that.
As a photographer, I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Oh, right. Yeah.
I can't believe I didn't know. Yes, okay.
Like a 1-hour photo shop. Like, here's my film. I need it back. I need prints in 1 hour. Like, you go to CVS and do.
Yeah, which I hate
yeah.
doing. I have my own printer now.
Hell yeah, girl.
It was a gift.
But we always had that stuff around. Like, we always had cameras around. My dad always had cameras. I remember, like, going through slides with my dad, like 35 millimeter slides. And I love the sound that those machines make. And I love the sound of, like, a 16 millimeter projector. It has a life. Like, it has a life that is felt in the room, and it has a weight, and it has an existence. And the bulb makes a noise, and the machinery makes a noise, and I love the tactility of it all.
I mean, when I met you, and I saw your project, can you touch on that project a little bit? Because she was using, or you, I was like talking to the audience for a second, using a projector slide, right? But like an old school reel. So what year would you even describe that projector? I feel like
that projector is from definitely the late 60s, early 70s. It's an oldie. There are definitely better ones, but that was my family projector.
Very cool.
And I love, so it's a 35 millimeter slide carousel, and it has 100 slides on it. And the project is called Venus, Olympia, Mona, and My Mother. And it's an acknowledgement of, like, these prolific women throughout art history. A lot of my work revolves around images and image language, and how we come to understand women through images. Like, we are only limited by our language, right? Like, I could talk to you in only so many words that I have, and then there's, like, our physical language. But our culture is so dictated by image language, right? And, like, there is a power to no one knowing what I look like right now. And they probably will imagine me to look a certain way based on our image culture, or based on images they've seen. So I choose, like, these prolific paintings, Venus, Olympia, Mona, and My Mother. And then I take found 35 millimeter slides and bleach out the faces on all of the women, which some people get really up in arms with me about this project as, like, as a erasure of identity. And what I'm saying is, like, I'm universalizing. Is that the word?
I don't know. I gotta wait till you finish.
I don't know. There's a universality to the lack of identity that I'm giving them, and it's both an exploration of the invisibility of these women within these home, like, clearly domestic photos.
Because the photos were families. They were like nuclear traditional families, or like extended families within this nuclear setting.
Right. And then single images of women, like, mostly I would say, like, on vacation or, like, at a wedding. There are very few
at
images.
bar mitzvahs.
Yeah. There's, like, some of women clearly at, like, an office party, it seems like, and I'm taking away their identities as a way to say, like, how, like, these women are invisible in this setting, more or less, and, like, what was the work that they did, and, like, can you imagine yourself in their place, or, like, can you imagine your mother in their place, or your aunt, or friend, and what is that language, like, how do we frame these women within our domestic culture, or within our familial culture, in America, that says, like, we frame family photos in this way, and so that these women become, like, almost a shorthand for, like, mother, or, like, sister. You understand their role
without even seeing their face.
Right.
I mean, I didn't take it. I'm surprised that people were, like, up in arms about that response, but, like, I guess I get, if surface level, I can understand, okay, they think you're erasing their identities. But, like, when I saw it, it impacted me, it touched me, because, like, I took it as, like, when you remove their face, it's clear, because it's like you're not lying to people when it's like, by removing their face and their identity, that's nothing that we're not used to. Like, we only see mother, we only see, like, you know, caretaker, nurturer, something like that, like secretary, especially in older images like that. So that shouldn't surprise you, erasing someone's identity. But, like, it shows what happens when you address the fact that you're erasing someone's identity, and what are you losing by them no longer having an identity in that photo. That's, like, what I took that as, and I loved that message. But I don't know if that was directly. No,
I think you're right, but I also think you're coming at it from the eye of a photographer, right? So
good point.
You are seeing and understanding that there is also, like, the act of seeing, like there's a multi-layered approach to that. And I understand why some people are like, but now I look more at the men, or like now I'm like, by erasing this woman, I'm forced to look at the other people, and they draw more attention. Yes, but like what I'm asking or inviting the viewer to do is like look at the way that the other people are in relation to this person, and like how does this person hold weight in the image even without an identity.
I fucking loved it. Like, I knew I had to talk to her. She's the only person I introduced myself to at this gallery. I was like, we did. I was like, girl, I fucking love your work. It was fantastic. And I agree. When I shoot photography, I took a film class in college. I went to Maryland. So I was like, it's so funny because as an artist, I'm like snooty and young. And I'm like, I guess I'll just take this film class, even though I photograph myself. Like, I already know all this stuff. No, I'm fucking dumb and pretentious. Like, I have to take the lessons to learn, take up a new medium. And then when I did, and I saw the film, I was like, damn, I see why film is becoming popular again. I get it, because there's something tangible to it. I like the graininess. I like it seems more in touch with the subject, because with digital photography, I find it's constant rapid fire. Yes, you can manipulate it easier, but if it's so rapid fire, you kind of lose that connection that you have with, that I feel with the subject, while taking the time to slow down, take the photos with the film camera, like it personalizes it a little bit more, and it gives me like time to consciously connect,
right,
and subconsciously connect with the subject. And that's why I love shooting, because it's like, I like interacting, and I love one-on-one time with other people and getting to know them and seeing what things they're trying to hide and how it actually just comes out anyways, right, with the photos.
Well, it's like we live in an era of endless content, and
so much.
The digital, like, to create digital footage or digital photos, you could just go and go and go, and no one's going to tell you to stop. And there's a beauty to that, especially like for documentary purposes, for example. But like limitations and an understanding of value, like I only have 3 minutes of Super 8 footage on this roll, and I only have 2 rolls, so I need to pay attention. And being in tune with what you're doing, I think, is so important, because you're not just gonna shoot to shoot. And that's the thing that I have, like this. I have a couple of rolls of the Ektachrome they just released.
What is that?
It's Super 8mm reversal film, so you could shoot it and then project it and color, and in color. So Super 8's only been being distributed as a color negative, which is terrible. There's like no labs that develop it except for a few in the States, and it takes forever. It's very expensive. Or you could shoot black and white, which I will develop myself. But now there's the color reversal, so you could develop it and hand edit it if you hand edit 8mm film, which I do from time to time. Yeah. Or you could just project it as is, which you can't do with a negative, as you know. And I have this film, and I got it, and like I got it a few months ago, and I was like, I'm gonna shoot this project. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, I don't want to use this film on that. And now almost it's like this film has this power over me, where like until I feel that I have an idea that
worthy enough,
the film needs to be saved. And I kind of like that.
It's like that, I guess older people would say, that whiskey bottle that you open up on that perfect chilly night that you're celebrating something for. I feel that's how I feel about the fabric that I got in Liberia. Like using that fabric, I was like, this is beautiful fabric. I have a lot of memories attached to this. I'm paralyzing myself. I have an idea in my head, paralyzing myself to actually do it, because I don't want to cut up the fabric, but like I have to try it out. You have to experiment. And that leads me to my next question. As an artist, we all go through paralyzing moments of like, okay, how do I get over this hump of whether it's doubt, fear of failure, endless other shit? How do you either avoid paralyzing yourself from getting your project done or starting your project? How do you follow through, making sure to completion? Like, what's your process like?
My process right now, I have busy hands. So like for me,
That's a great way to say it.
for me, like working on a video project, even though I consider myself to primarily work in film and video, is very it makes me really depressed sometimes because it isn't. I hate sitting at a computer and editing, even though that's my job, like my money job. And like I want to edit my own footage, but sometimes it's just like I like objects and I like working with them, and it's something that's new to me. So I try to work, and this is like where the paralyzing part comes in. I'll work on like 5 or 6 projects at once in different stages, which often will look like me editing at a computer for an hour and 15 minutes with a timer on, and then getting up and going to sand down a sculpture that I'm working on.
Shut up. You really do it that structured?
Yeah.
Wow.
'Cause I get very antsy. So that's like a very helpful way of breaking up my time. I'm like, oh, I'll spend an hour doing this, and then I'll get up. And if I'm really like in it, I of course will continue doing what I'm doing. But if I could get up and work on another thing, I like to work on a few things at once. More recently, my practice has become like very research based.
Okay.
And
That's
I think,
fun.
yeah,
I like that. Open a book.
yeah, I spend way more time opening books now than I have in a few years.
Still tangible. Still
Yeah.
occupying your busy hands.
Well, it's been interesting because like doing the Red Dot show with you guys, I had originally proposed doing a 16 millimeter film loop called Cycle, and I'm so glad that I went through what I went through with this film, because it led me to the box sculptures. So basically, Cycle was a film that I wanted to paint in my menstrual blood, and it was about, I'd say it's a 30-foot loop, so it's like 60 feet long. And my idea was that I would run it through the projector as a circle. It would show sculpturally as a full circle of 16 millimeter film, and it would be painted in my blood. And I was kind of emulating like the heaviness and lightness of my cycle over the course of the days.
Okay, very cool.
But when you paint blood on film and run it through a hot projector, it flakes off and goes all over the place.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But, I mean, I have the film, and I intend. It's like this is kind of. It's not gross, but it's just like something I don't know how to reckon with.
Yeah.
It's just like this film with dried blood all over it, sitting in a bucket in my studio, and every once in a while I open it and I look at it. I'm like, what are you gonna make out of this?
Oh, it's like still your blood in the bucket?
Well, it's like dried blood on the film. So like some of it stayed, but it's,
in the developer bucket?
No.
Oh.
It's like literally 60 feet of film painted in with blood on it, like 16 millimeter film painted in blood, wrapped up because I don't want to put it on a reel, because if it touches each other, it flakes off.
Yeah.
So it's like loosely coiled into this bucket.
I like that. I'm not grossed out. I think that is.
Oh, I don't think it's gross. So I made it and I projected it for myself several times, and it just was not.
Wasn't hitting.
No, I was like, this sucks. And it was an idea I had for many years and sat on. I was like, I want to make this film. I want to make this film. And I made it. It was just not interesting. And that's fine. So I started painting the blood onto the slides.
Yeah. Before, because I want you to talk about that, but that's such a perfect example that I think artists need to hear, that you had this idea for the longest time. You actually made it active, and you're like, okay, let's see how this works. And it didn't work out the way you wanted to, and that's okay. It didn't paralyze you.
Yeah.
And then, you made this amazing, like, I want to buy this. She just needs to, like, let me. But she made this amazing, box with slides, and you can continue.
Yeah, they're 35 millimeter slides that I basically, I open them up with an X-Acto knife, and I take the negative out, and I bleach the negative. And then I dry them, and I paint my menstrual blood onto them. And then I reseal them into the slide holder. And then I construct these light boxes out of wood, like they're individual 2-inch by 2-inch cubes.
They're so cute.
They're cute.
I love
They're like
them.
night lights.
It looks like a little Christmas village. I don't know why. I picture like those little Christmas homes that you look into and you see all these, but it's it brought me into that pleasant, like, childhood. Like, I enjoy sticking my face in this little box to look at this light.
And I love that that's, like, there's an intimacy to the object, which, like, because they're small, it draws you in. And the reaction I get from people when I've shown them is they're like, wow, these are really beautiful. Is that your blood? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, because their, like, nose is, like, practically
really
to
in it.
And that's the exact, and after I made those 6 boxes, I started working on a series of them, and now I have, I guess I have 4, I think I have the full 14.
Yeah. Wow.
And they're modeled after basically, there are 14, they're not, I don't want to say they're, like, abstract images of the Stations of the Cross or, like, anything like that, but I made 14 of them in kind of acknowledgement of the Stations of the Cross and how Jesus's, like, Christ's blood is sanctified and, like, is this all-saving thing. Like, you go to Mass and you drink the blood of Christ and it saves you, and it's holy. And, like, menstrual blood is thought of as, like, oh, that's dirty. So I want them to be displayed in that way that kind of, like, draws the viewer in, and they approach it with this curious, almost, like, reverence, because the object is so intimate, and then, like, flipping that on them and being like, well, actually, it's like this almost worship of dirt.
Holy shit, that's a great idea. And it really touches back to your Catholic upbringing.
Yeah, I think a lot of my work has actually been kind of, like, going back toward that in some way, because that really, doing that project with you guys really got me started on doing a lot of research on menstruation. A lot of my work has kind of, like, turned toward that in a natural way.
That's so organic and beautiful. I love that.
It's been really exciting, and so I've been doing all this research on, like, menstrual practices.
I gotta borrow that book.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
What is it called again?
It's called Blood Magic, the Anthropology of Menstruation.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I love it.
So
Blood
good.
Magic!
It's just, like, because it doesn't take, I think often we are put under the impression that, like, in all cultures, menstruation is thought of as dirty, or, like, you know, we hear more about the women in Nepal sleeping in menstrual huts and, like, being exposed to the elements and dying, even though now in 2017 that practice was outlawed. But, you know, this is a cultural belief. It's social. It's social. It's you believe in it, and even if it's outlawed, you do it because you believe that you are doing it for the right reasons.
It's like it's a moral reflection. Like, it's such
in a lot of cultures, women menstruate like, and this is more in Aboriginal or sort of like villages, smaller villages, tribal, indigenous people. Menstruation is really celebrated, or it's seen as like a moment of power in which you can be the closest to divinity. Or women menstruate freely, like, onto their legs, and it's not seen as like a phenomenon. It's just what their bodies do.
And that's truly how Red Dot was created, because as a kid, I wanted my period so badly. Like, and of course, because when you want something so badly, it is so late.
Yeah.
So I was so late. But I wanted it very, like, so badly, because I just didn't, and I did not understand why it was such a big deal to hide it. I didn't care. I didn't understand it at all. And I don't know, something just developed once I got my period. I was never ashamed to be like, yeah, I'm, like, bleeding right now. It was more just like, had my period, called my dad immediately. I was like, Dad, I just got my period. Don't know why I didn't call my mom first. Call my dad first. So it was like the comfort level was just there. And they just, you know, making a nonprofit now. But it's just to me, it's just such a powerful experience that I got to embrace. Like, I can fucking create life using this. And I think that's what scared me so much with my surgery. It was like a moment of something that I advocate for. I want people to have the freedom to choose how they bleed, you know, because that's a real thing. People will probably make fun of that concept, but it's like, we don't have the freedom to discuss it nor choose how we're going to bleed. People shame free bleeding. I'm lazy. I never put on a tampon, so sometimes my underwear are looking crazy. But, you know, it's like that sometimes. I'm not ashamed by it, but I'm sure other people can get shamed by it. But losing, you know, going through having a cyst losing an ovary because of it. It was just like, holy shit. Like, my entire direction was almost threatened. Like, my whole belief system was threatened over this cyst that no one looks into ever.
Yeah. So
many women have cysts on their ovaries all the time, and nothing is like, no one checks during your gyno appointment.
That's
they only press and they're like, oh, you're fine. But this is something that is so common that you need to get like an ultrasound every time you go to the gynecologist. Like, I can't believe the size that I had, and it shook me to my core, and like, it put me back towards like making sure that Red Dot is a umbrella for all these issues, and that we're addressing all of these issues, because it became more personal for me than ever before.
It's a terrible thing that happened to you, but it's also kind of like, do you feel like in a way it was a gift?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I lost I just had a brain fart. It's not like I can't have children. It is a gift because it was like a reminder, and I can help do my part to improve this condition so this doesn't happen to other people.
Yeah.
And use my platform to do that. That's why, like, my dad was talking to me. He's like, you don't have to tell everyone, like, you went through this, and you don't have to talk about how you lost an ovary. I was like, I'm not ashamed that I lost an ovary, because that is fucking real, and it's like a sacrifice, like, that I wasn't ready for, but it prepared me to be able to have a platform to talk about it and prevent that for other people. So yes, I think it was a gift.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That it happened to you.
Specifically. This special little girl. Wow, we just dove into so much. So where do you think that your work is going to develop during this, intersectional feminist wave that we're in right now?
That's interesting. It's definitely something that's kind of, it makes me nervous to approach my work sometimes, because in a way I do feel my work is super important right now. In a way that I definitely did not know it would be maybe 2 years ago. Because I did always fear that I was just making work about things that people had made work about before, but we're fighting the same fight that we've been fighting.
Yeah, like so you don't know actually how necessary it is to continue to make work like that.
And it's necessary. It's definitely necessary. And that was a big question for me originally, and now I'm like, oh no, this is necessary.
Yeah.
But it's also working with a feminine gaze in a time where the constructs of gender are rapidly, like, just because it's under fire and it's questioned, and that's valid, and I'm not mad about it, but it does cause me to address my work in a different way, a way that is more intersectional, a way that does take into account these other voices, and the fact that, like, I'm very careful when I think about my work, in the sense that, like, I don't want to say that my work is, like, I mean, I consider myself female. I'm very strongly identify as a woman, and my work is from the female gaze for sure. Like, that's a part of who I am and where my work comes from. But as a woman making art and addressing topics of femininity, gender, sexuality, identity, I have to think about what I'm saying and be sure to include those other voices now, and make sure that my work isn't narrow-minded, or it's easier to put on the blinders and say, like, this is my feminist art, but, like, to address what it means to be an intersectional feminist now is how we progress to the next wave of feminism. Oof. And how
you just give me chills. Holy shit.
Well, like, I don't want to make art that, like, it's been made, like Martha Rosler, who has an amazing exhibition up at the Jewish Museum right now. She made her work, and she's still making her work. But that work is from a time where, like, intersectional feminism wasn't at the top of everyone's, like, vocabulary list when talking about feminism. It wasn't like, oh, we need to talk about the intersectionality of this, or we need to, like, include trans people in our considerations of gender and sexuality. Like, when I pick up a topic like that, now it holds a sort of weight that I don't think it once held.
Yeah.
And like to be a contemporary artist means to take into account who you're talking to and like who you're talking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't speak for everyone, but I can speak from my perspective, and like I want to make sure my perspective is educated and sensitive and responsible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Fuck yeah. Oh God, fuck, I love you.
But
I
I
can't
love
handle
like when y'all post on the Red Dot Instagram, it's like not all women menstruate, right? Like,
yeah.
and that's like something I have to consider in my work too. Like sometimes my work is about women who menstruate, and sometimes my work is about women. And if we're talking about women and the way I write it, like with an X, like I can't generalize that to be women who are born with breasts or women who are born menstruating. That is not speaking for my community. It's not fair.
The fact that you're taking responsibility is so much more like you're going a lot further than other artists that, you know, may have a similar feminist, like, or they think that they have a similar feminist parallel. Like we, you know, I'm fighting for feminism, you know, but the focus could just be like white feminist movement, white feminist wave, and they may be like, but like I have black friends, or like, you know, I'm making sure that I'm including other colors and all that stuff in this space. But it's like you have to go from start to finish, planning to completion, having multiple experiences in mind. And that's why it's not easy to be an artist.
No.
Like people like to pretend. I really need a tissue. No, it's okay. I just like I keep like fixing my face right now. People like to pretend that artistry is like a lifestyle, and it's like it's a easy way to present or express yourself. But no, like you said, there's a responsibility. If you're going to address that this is going to be for women, then you're going to include people that identify as a woman. Yeah. Now, if your stuff is going to be about periods, then you are focusing on people that have periods. And that's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, if you're going to generalize, you got to include all the people that identify with that.
Right. And that's the thing is like, I want my work to be approachable from everyone's perspective. Yeah. But I would never want to be considered, I would never want someone to look at my work and feel like they identify as a woman. And maybe like, I'm sure there are plenty of women who look at my work and maybe don't identify with my work, and that's cool.
That's fine.
I'm sure there are men who look at my work and identify with it. That's cool too. But like, I don't ever want anyone to ever feel that I ignored,
intentionally ignored,
right? Yeah. Because it made it easier for me to make the work.
Well said. That's well said. Speaking of work, do you have upcoming work? Are you in the process?
I'm in the process. I'm developing a series of videos right now. And this is like a whole thing of authorship and dealing with how I'm going to approach this topic. And I've been putting it off, but there's something about it that's just telling me I have to make it. It keeps calling me back. And I was reading the Blood Magic book. And there's specifically a chapter about an Aboriginal tribe in Australia. And this myth about the sisters, they're like the creation sisters. And I believe it's the Wawilak tribe. And it's just this gorgeous story about it. It's told several different ways. In one version, there are these two sisters. Well, first of all, the game Cat's Cradle is played in this culture. And it's something that's like, if the women are playing it, it's ignored by the men. It's like not for the male gaze or male sphere, and it's respected.
Is that why you posted the Cat's Cradle image on your Instagram?
Yeah, so I'm like studying all of these ways of playing the game and also like creating string figures out of your hands by yourself, because obviously it was a solitary game as well as as two, and it would have to be two women playing. It was like you would not play with a man. You'd not play with your brother, your husband, your best friend, doesn't matter. But there's a story about these sisters playing Cat's Cradle. And then at some point, they put their feet together, and one of them menstruates, and one of the other sister like pulls the blood from her and like wraps it around her neck. Whoa. And they attract this snake who tries to eat them.
Okay.
It's like it's a creation story, and I'm interested in like visualizing this, mostly because I'm interested in the cradle, the cat's cradle, and the loop as this endless sort of like cycle of life, and I think that's such a beautiful representation of fertility and growth and this ongoing thing that we mold into different shapes. And it's this game that a game of two women, a private thing, all about creating together.
Yeah.
And
it just keeps going.
And it keeps going, right? Like it can be as long as you hit no end, as long as you can see the opportunity to create. And I just think that concept as a myth is so gorgeous. And the idea, there's also another way this myth is told where one woman menstruates and the other woman, they begin dancing together because this tribe believed that like vigorous activity, one of which would be dancing, would help bring on menstruation. And she dances so that she can menstruate in order to cause like menstrual synchronicities, which was considered very powerful. And so I'm trying to work on a series of videos about that myth, but also about cleansing, because so much of menstruating is believed in various cultures. Like proper bathing techniques is very important. I'm very interested in Judaism and the mikvah, like the Jewish cleansing bath, where women go to clean themselves every time Hasidic women will go after every menstrual cycle to cleanse themselves.
Oh my God!
To this bath, and
but it's a specific bath to do that.
It's a mikvah. There's like a specific way of obtaining the water. It has to be flowing water. Okay. Preferably like from the sky, but could be from a stream. Yeah, they make them with. You could do it with pipes as long as there's like an outflowing. It can't be stagnant. Yeah. But I'm interested in these ideas of cleansing, ritual, the glory of life, fertility, and also like, I guess like with glory, like with power comes like responsibility, right? Like with the great power to create, there is a responsibility. Unfortunately, like sadly, most men do not harbor the same sense of responsibility. Maybe because their power is not as great. I don't know. Boys. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's just I'm working on this series of videos about that. I'm like very into my bed sheets right now. Okay. Well, and I'm interested.
Resourceful. I love that your work is very resourceful.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love like big work, and I feel like this need to express in a big way, maybe because I'm so small, like physically a small person. Yeah. But yeah, I think of my bed sheets as such like an intimate place that I exist. And so I want to start dyeing fabrics with my menstrual blood. Okay. And embroidering them. Beautiful. But I'm also doing a few video projects on like words. So like I'm working on a project called this is not the official title, but the project file on my computer right now is words for vagina. Okay. And it's words from many languages that would be like euphemisms for vagina.
Interesting. We had a similar project that our friend Rachel made. It was like alphabet series, but it was like different slang words for
period.
For period and vagina. So like cunt.
Yeah.
I love that word.
So I'm
I'm sorry.
No. Well, you could say it.
Yeah.
You got one, say it. And if you don't got one, say it with care.
Say it with care.
But yeah, I mean, similarly working with those modes and doing research on that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm excited about this. I got these like tiny TV monitors someone gave me.
I saw on your that looks so cool.
And I'm exploring like, how do I make this? I'm really interested in like making videos into tactile objects. Okay. And like if I'm doing this video on words like slang words for vagina, obviously the video has to be shown in some sort of vagina like way. Yeah. So I'm constructing a little home for it now.
Oh, wow.
So you could go be with the vagina really as we stare into its euphemisms.
I love these. This is such big projects. Oh my God.
But I'm most excited about the Cat's Cradle stuff because I'm going to do the performances, and I just want to respect this tribe and thank them, like thank this culture for this myth, this beautiful myth about these outstanding women, and I want to pay respects to that in my personal exploration of it. And it's not, I don't want to exploit, but I want to really like
process digest it.
Yeah. And so I have been doing a lot of research and finally like practicing the game.
Did you play as a kid?
Not so much.
I loved that game.
It's like, so funny. So many people are telling me that.
Yeah. It was a fun, like I'm thinking about the memories right now, like on the bus doing it. It's so much fun.
I mean, it's just like the simplicity.
Oh yeah. All you need is string.
All you need is a string.
String in your hands.
And so I'm excited to explore those works as just a straight up video project.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because Red Dot's developing like a film night where we're showing. So let us know so we can align it with the completion of your project, because I know Sage would love to have that there.
I would love to do that.
But I mean, I feel like we talked about so much beautiful things. Where can people find you and your work? What is first? Actually, we're gonna backtrack for a second because I find this is so important. What was a lesson you learned in 2018, and what is a goal you have for 2019 as an artist?
A lesson I learned in 2018 is slow the fuck down.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like growing up in New York, like sometimes I'm on the train and I just have like rage, like, I'm like
rage.
I'm like I literally feel like I'm walking past someone. I'm like, you're walking mad slow, and like in reality, like where the fuck am I going?
Yeah, that you have to walk so
to the
fast.
bodega, like to get my coffee. Like I'm gonna push this little old lady out of the way in my like New York tunnel vision. Like I have to send this email. I have to get my coffee. I have to go to work. I have to go to my studio. I have to finish this thing for a deadline that only I am setting for myself. And then like I fuck things up because I'm rushing, or like I'm fighting my process so hard. Like instead of just
get it done.
Yeah, get it done. Like surrender to the process is like my goal. Just like allow the things that need time to take time, and also spend less time trying to force myself to be ready to make something. Just one. And it's always been like this, and I don't know what changed last year, or like feeling this pressure like I have to do this now, or like if I don't know, like get my work out there, which I do. I get my work out there, and like that's great. And like sometimes I get it out there less than other times, and that's great too. And just like riding it, like go with the flow, and like when you feel you need to make something,
that's when you're supposed to make it.
Just make it. And when you feel,
I feel like you're talking to me personally. I've like,
I hope, yeah. If you feel like, if you're like, I'm not ready to make this, I feel like so often I'll start making something, and then halfway through I'm like, oh shit, I now realize all these things, and that's great. That's a gift. But like, also if I took 5 more minutes before I started A, cutting that wood, B, like painting on that film strip, erasing that negative with bleach, like if I just took a second more
just to think about it,
I wouldn't be like, oh shit, now I have to do all these other things because I messed it up.
Yeah.
Like stop rushing.
And don't even think, I mean, I think also, I don't want to speak for your goal, but like I think for other people, like not everything is like a mess up is not a failure. Like it's just going to lead to different, like how with the flakes of the loop menstrual cycle that you had on the film, like that led to a different project that like big fan. So, you know, like.
No, definitely. Just, like my friend said this to me. God bless this girl. You know, you got your homegirl who like holds you down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I love that.
Krista Ray, thank you. Holding it down. She said to me the other day, like, would you talk to me the way you're talking to yourself right now?
She like stopped you in the middle of a rant
She's like,
on yourself.
You're so mean to yourself. Like, would you ever say to me, like, you're an idiot? Like, why did you do that? You're an idiot. And I was like, of course not.
Yeah.
I'd be like, girl, you're great. Do your thing. Like, you're amazing. I'd never say that to you. She's like, why are you talking to yourself like that then? Be nicer to yourself.
It's also intention because my homegirl that she has my back. I'd be like, what are you doing, you idiot? So I would call her an idiot, but the intention is idiot equals I absolutely fucking love you. But it's not the same to me because I treat myself horribly. So I contest to that.
You would never say like, oh, you cute idiot to yourself. You're like, why'd you fuck that up?
You dumb bitch. You're never going to make it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
awful.
like, why would you ever talk to yourself?
Never.
You would never, if you are a woman who believes in empowering other women, you would never talk to another woman the way you're channeling that energy toward yourself.
Yes.
So like,
why are you doing it to yourself?
Right. I'm just kind of like, stop, think, speak to yourself. Like,
and what's the root? Because like, I guess it's comparing it. Like, I think my goal is to not use social media as much.
Yeah.
Even though it's a great tool to, all that bullshit. But, like, I find myself comparing myself to other people's work that has nothing to do with my work.
Right.
Trying to rush projects because I see other people posting projects that has nothing to do with my process.
Right.
And, forgot my other point. But I agree. I don't want to rush. No. I mean, patience is a great quote from a book called The Greatest Salesman in the World that I think everyone should read. And it will help rewire your positive language and dialogue with yourself. The king of all, they say the king of all trees is the olive tree. And it takes about 100 years for the olives to be made in the tree or to grow.
Right.
And then he says the onion plant takes about 9 weeks and then it dies. I've been living like an onion plant. I am now changing my ways to be the king of all trees, the olive tree.
I love that.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And it's just there's so many layers of like patience, not comparing yourself to other people, patience, have patience. So.
Hell yeah. I love that. But then, then I'm my own way. I'm like, but an onion has so many layers.
So many layers. But we are complex beings. We have so many layers that we're going to shed. And we're going to, once that onion plant is done, we're going to blossom into an olive tree. Well, thank you so much for being on the Red Dot Collective.
Thank you.
Where can people find you and your work?
You can find me in Brooklyn.
No longer Staten Island.
But you can find my work at www.Rebecca, Rebecca, Shapass, SHAPASS.com, or on the gram at Shapass, SHAPASS. And that's that.
I'm such a big fan of her stuff, so follow her on Instagram for looking at cool ass shit. All right, thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
Thank you for having me on my own show. And Red Dot loves you.
Oh, I love them.